Whether you loved the Super Bowl this year or hated it, watching the two best teams in the NFL go at it can provide some really important lessons for a team like the Chicago Bears trying to get to a Super Bowl of their own.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on all of your favorite social media platforms, including the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. On the show today, we look at the two teams and the game we saw in the Super Bowl and find the lessons that a team like the Chicago Bears can take away from these two stalwarts of the NFL and apply that to what Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus are doing with this roster. Obviously, a lot starts with the quarterback position for both teams in the big game, but also the coaching and the play calling being a really key factor, and also a position you might not expect, but cornerback, and some reflections on these defenses as well that we can apply directly to this Chicago Bears team. The big takeaway has to be the Super Bowl MVP for the third time, Patrick Mahomes. And it's easy to sit there and say, well, there's only one Patrick Mahomes. We've never seen a player dominate the way he has. The debates now are about him and Tom Brady and the differences and the similarities, and we're not going to get into all that today. And it's easy to say, well, he's kind of the fluke, right? You can't get a you can't get a Patrick Mahomes. You can't just find your way to one. But you can't help but watch the magic that Patrick Mahomes has and look at Caleb Williams in the NFL draft and not say that Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes. But if he can get you some version of Patrick Mahomes, it's all the more reason to stay at the number one overall pick and get the quarterback that can at least do and has done some of those Patrick Mahomes type things. It's not about Caleb Williams needing to be Patrick Mahomes exactly, but the feeling that Patrick Mahomes gives you when he's your quarterback under center that is not exclusive to Patrick Mahomes. He's not the only guy who gives you that exact feeling, but the feeling you get watching him is different than the feeling you get watching Brock Purdy, and it's different than the feeling you get watching Justin Fields. But I don't think it's exclusive to Patrick Mahomes. I think you feel it with someone like Joe Burrow. I think you feel it most of the time with someone like Josh Allen, and to a lesser extent, I think Lamar Jackson as well, that having that elite quarterback who's truly a game-changing caliber player gives you a certain sense that we're never out of it, that you're down a touchdown, but that's okay, that you're down with 2 minutes left in the game, but our guys got this, that you're down in overtime, and it's score with the Super Bowl on the line. If you don't score on this drive, you lose. And it's like, you know what? You're fine. We got Patrick Mahomes on our side then. And I mean, replace the day. We've got Joe Burrow. We've got Josh Allen. We've got Lamar Jackson. We've got Caleb Williams. You know, that's the kind of thing you need to pursue at the quarterback position because it makes all the difference in a game like this, regardless of what your offensive line is doing, regardless of who your wide receivers are in that offense. I mean, when it's Mecole Hardman and Justin Watson and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Rashee Rice, it's not a star-studded cast of playmakers, albeit Travis Kelce, but not a star-studded cast for Patrick Mahomes. And it doesn't matter, right? They weren't really able to consistently run the ball in this game. This offense was left looking for answers at times. But Patrick Mahomes seemingly like single-handedly willed this team to a victory. And it's more complicated than that, but you just have this feeling, right, that when you have Mahomes as your quarterback under center, the other team is always scared. Like Brock Purdy had a great game. Brock Purdy played very well for the San Francisco 49ers. And that totally gets erased by what Patrick Mahomes was able to do for the Chiefs. Mahomes even threw an interception in this game, like not a good one either. Had a couple of bad plays here and there, but it doesn't matter because he's such a difference maker. And the Bears, as much as like we've seen someone like Justin Fields have that kind of upside, you never quite get that feeling that when Justin Fields has the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, like he's got it, don't worry. We've never had that feeling with Fields. It's always like here goes nothing. Let's see what we get this time. And too often that results in a loss. And it's not always Justin Fields' fault, but you never had that like unwavering confidence that our guy has this. And that's not to say that Caleb Williams is guaranteed to have that, but the point is that you have to turn over every stone at quarterback to find the guy who can give you that. The same way that Patrick Mahomes had it, the same way that Aaron Rodgers used to have that for Green Bay, where it's just like, yep, he's got it. If there's time on the clock and the game is within reach, do you feel like your quarterback's going to put his team on his back and carry you down to victory in that way? Or is something going to go wrong? And Mahomes has that. Josh Allen has that. Joe Burrow has that. Aaron Rodgers used to have that. Like, it doesn't have to be one of one, but it's like one of maybe 5 quarterbacks in the league at that time. And that's why if you feel like Caleb Williams has that kind of potential and looks like the guy who can do that, you have to go get him and see if he can get you to that step above where Justin Fields has gotten this team so far. And the Mahomes thing really hammered that home, whereas like Purdy is a very, very good quarterback and made impressive plays in this game, but he's not up in that tier. You know, they surrounded Brock Purdy with an all-pro running back and a stellar defense and some dynamic playmakers at receiver. And like, it only goes so far when those drives end in field goals instead of touchdowns. And Patrick Mahomes, when they needed it most, drove them down in overtime and got the touchdown. And he does that time and time and time again. And the Bears need to do whatever they can to try and get that caliber of quarterback that can be the absolute difference maker for their franchise. I don't want that to overlook the importance of offensive scheme and play calling that kind of went with the success and failure of the Chiefs' offense in this game. When things were clicking, the play calling was gorgeous, and Patrick Mahomes was making plays. And when things weren't clicking, didn't feel like the play calling was always super helpful for both teams in this game. So we'll look at where scheme and play calling came into this Super Bowl and where that's really going to fall on Shane Waldron's shoulders for the Chicago Bears next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the best way to play daily fantasy sports, because right now they've got specials going. They're calling it Demon Time on Prize Picks. With Demons and Goblins, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. It's really simple. Prize Picks sets a projection for every player, and you choose whether that player will perform better or worse than their Prize Picks projection. It's simple and easy, and you can make your picks in literally 60 seconds or less. I had a lot of fun picking the big game on Prize Picks. I had it squared away with a pass breakup by the Kansas City Chiefs cornerbacks with Patrick Mahomes passing yards to exceed a very low number. And it was a great way to give me some extra stakes in the Super Bowl in that big game. And that's where, even with football season over, you can get on the action with basketball, baseball coming up, hockey, all of your favorites in sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. The quarterback is the ultimate trump card in the Super Bowl and in the NFL, and having someone like Patrick Mahomes can overcome so much. But having a play caller like Andy Reid goes a long way. And even for San Francisco, we saw having a play caller like Kyle Shanahan went a long way for both of those teams. The play calling is so important to how far both of these teams got all the way to the Super Bowl. This was more of a defensive struggle for a lot of this game, and it's two quality defenses. But even both of these high-quality defenses that, people are arguing that, the Chiefs' defense is what got Mahomes to the Super Bowl this year, and the 49ers' defense is what carried Brock Purdy. To an extent, but when push came to shove in this game, it was the offensive scheming that got both of these teams going. It was a low-scoring first half, 10-3, but we finished 22-25. I don't have the quick math in my head, but that's a lot more scoring in the second half than in the first half because these offenses started to figure out these defenses. There was more for the offense to adjust to over the course of the game, and it was really the likes of Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan that found answers and solutions for both of these teams. And it highlights the importance of the Bears getting the offensive coordinator position and hire correct to go from a Luke Getsy and say, you know what, that's not good enough. We need Shane Waldron to do the kind of things that coaches like Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan do to get to the Super Bowl and then do in the Super Bowl. Especially, when you look at Kansas City winning this game, where Isaiah Pacheco is getting, at best, 3 yards a carry for the majority of that game. The 49ers were swallowing up the Chiefs' running game. It wasn't working. They also took away Travis Kelce for a lot of this game. In the first half, he had, one target, I think? Ended up finishing with 9 catches for 93 yards. After the Chiefs offense really got him going late in this game and into overtime. But for a while, they didn't have answers. And it was up to Andy Reid to dial different things up. They tried a few different wide receiver screens, couldn't get things going. They tried sticking to the running game, some different run concepts to try and get Pacheco to the edge. The 49ers were ready for it. They had adjusted. They had adapted. That's where teams had been running on San Francisco throughout the playoffs. Not in this game. So Andy Reid had to adjust. They got Patrick Mahomes going with his legs. He ended up being their leading rusher with 66 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt. We know Patrick Mahomes has some mobility, but he's not usually, the Justin Fields leading the offense in the running game. They got somebody like Mecole Hardman involved. They got touchdown pass to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. These are not big name dynamic playmaking receivers, but they're getting schemed open. Look at the game-winning touchdown. They call it corn dog in Kansas City. It's the same play they used against the Philadelphia Eagles. You send that outside receiver in motion to make a bunch right near the line of scrimmage and then turn him around and run back out to the flat. And when he sends in motion past the bunch, then the cornerbacks start to communicate different rules on, usually it's like, I'm going to take the outside guy, you're going to take the inside guy, or the first guy that goes in or out. There was some level of, I wouldn't even say miscommunication, but just slow reaction from the 49ers to adjust and get to Hardman on the outside. He was wide open for a Patrick Mahomes touchdown. As impressive as Patrick Mahomes was to help carry that team down, Andy Reid schemed up a pretty easy game-winning. As far as game-winning touchdowns go, pretty much pitch and catch to an open Mecole Hardman in the flat, a 3-yard touchdown pass. Not to take anything away from Mahomes, but that was also great play calling and scheming on the set. It's the combination. When it's third down and Mahomes has to scramble because no one's open, it's a scramble drill play, and then he finds an open receiver in backyard football. That's the quarterback making the big plays. And then when it's first and goal from the 3, 6 seconds left in overtime, and Mecole Hardman's wide open in the flat, that's coach and that's scheme. In some ways, you have to have both. You definitely need to have the quarterback first. And Patrick Mahomes can will his way even when scheme's not getting open. He found ways to make plays. But then scheme can also make it easier for Patrick Mahomes on top of that. And, of course, it helped that they got the running game going. But even on that drive, the big run by Patrick Mahomes was one of these kind of triple option plays. It's a read option for Mahomes, and then he's got the RPO in the flat, or he can scramble it himself up the middle and scrambles for 19 yards to get into the red zone and really make a big play for this Chiefs team. You look at the 49ers, the same kind of thing. Like, the Chiefs were taking away their outside receivers. We didn't really see a lot from Deebo Samuel. He had a bunch of targets, but not a lot of catches because he was well covered. The Chiefs took away George Kittle, 2 catches for 4 yards. And yet Brock Purdy was able to find ways to get a guy like Kyle Juszczyk a couple of big catches from the fullback / tight end position. Jawan Jennings was I thought he was going to win Super Bowl MVP as really kind of the no-name wide receiver in this San Francisco offense. A 7th-round pick a couple of years ago out of Tennessee. And what does he do in this game? He throws a touchdown pass and catches one as well. Like, he was going to be the Super Bowl Cinderella story, if not for Patrick Mahomes ripping his heart out, really, in overtime in this game. Like, the 49ers and Shanahan found different ways to get different guys involved to carry this offense down and go blow for blow with Patrick Mahomes to the very end and require Patrick Mahomes' heroics to drive down and win this game, doing it against a great defense run by Steve Spagnuolo. Like, that's the thing. Both of these offense got things going in the second half and in the fourth quarter against really, really, really good defenses on the other side. And that's what makes the offensive scheming and play calling in this game that much more impressive. They're not just slicing and dicing some bad defense, but they adjusted and found ways to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. Christian McCaffrey ended up being kind of the big playmaker down the stretch for the 49ers. Travis Kelce ended up doing it for the Chiefs when it was all said and done. And that's what can make a quarterback like Brock Purdy shine. And it's what can really make a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes go over the top and deliver that really dagger at the end of this game. And the Bears will need Shane Waldron to do those kind of things, whether it's for Fields or Caleb Williams. Like, you have to help your quarterback. He can't just do it all by himself. And you can't just rely on big play talent at the receiver position or at any of your positions, right? Like, this was not about the biggest name, highest paid receivers and playmakers carrying these teams to victories. Like, the Bears are going to need guys not named DJ Moore, not named Cole Kmet to contribute and to be schemed up, and guys like Tyler Scott, as a number 3 receiver, guys like your number 2, like Mercedes Lewis, your number 2, number 3 tight ends, your backup running backs, like other guys will end up needing to make plays being schemed by Shane Waldron. And you can't just rely on all your passes going to DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and relying on whoever your top running back is going to be and how that battle plays out next season. Like, it's about getting everyone involved and using your scheme to give the quarterback options and answers across the board, even against the best defenses on the biggest stage. That's why they fired Luke Getsy, because he wasn't able to do that kind of thing enough. They could get the big game from DJ Moore, the occasional big game from Cole Kmet, but it was never like a dynamic offense getting a bunch of playmakers involved. And when the defense could take that away, the Bears didn't have a counterpunch. Shane Waldron needs to have a counterpunch. We saw him be able to do that a little bit with, some games were DK Metcalf games, some games were Tyler Lockett games. They even got Jackson Smith and Jigba going sometimes, a couple different running backs, a couple different tight ends. Like, the elements are there, but we need to see that go to the next level. Maybe ideally the next level with a quarterback with a little bit more raw talent perhaps than what he had with Geno Smith, who was very impressive in Seattle, but is not in the same caliber of some of the better quarterbacks. That's why the Bears need to get that high caliber, high talent quarterback, whether it's getting the talent out of Justin Fields or drafting him in Caleb Williams. You also saw in this Super Bowl the importance of the defenses, but particularly in this defense, in both defenses, the cornerback play is what stymied both offenses, especially in the first half, and forced both play callers to adjust and attack other areas of the field. We'll look at why guys like Isaiah McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs, highlight the importance of somebody like Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon in Chicago next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. Did you see their commercial during the big game? They went all up and had the DoorDash stuff. They were giving away everything from one of everything from all of the ads to one lucky winner, but you had to enter that super, super long promo code. I recorded it. I typed it out. I entered the DoorDash promo. I hope you did as well. So they're going to deliver all sorts of goodies to one lucky winner, but hey, you don't have to be the winner to get great stuff delivered by DoorDash. They've got everything for all of your everyday needs right on the DoorDash app, from restaurants to groceries to flowers perhaps this week and gifts. So next time you're running low on dinner ideas, pet supplies, or just time in general, you can get so much more than you realize delivered right to your door with DoorDash. Whatever watch party or anything party you've got coming up, get it delivered with DoorDash. Football season may be over, but we're in the thick of basketball games, the school year, and let's face it, winter. I can think of a million reasons every day to order DoorDash, so hop on the app and make your day a little easier. Get dinner for tonight, groceries for the week, or maybe a consolation prize for your 49ers friends, all on DoorDash. DoorDash, your door to more. Head to the DoorDash app and get everything you need delivered. Both of these defenses delivered really strong performances that, of course, somebody's got to lose and ultimately weren't enough. But what stood out to me about both defenses in this game was the cornerback play and the way that they were able to take away a lot of the kind of outside throws that both of these teams wanted, especially downfield. I felt like Isaiah McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed were two of the best players in this game. They're the two outside cornerbacks for the Kansas City Chiefs. Both of them had, or Trent McDuffie, I keep calling him Isaiah McDuffie, too many McDuffies. Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed made plays. Both had key pass breakups in this game, covered receivers up and down the field, and just eliminated guys from the game. And I can't help but feel like, man, it's all the more reason to pay Jalen Johnson. And that's why the Bears draft Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson in back-to-back years. Keep investing in this cornerback position, double dipping with Terrell Smith in the 5th round, because having talented players at those positions goes a long way. Same thing for the 49ers cornerbacks. I mean, they were injured in that spot, and they had to go to some depth there. I mean, Logan Ryan came off the street. I think they mentioned he was on a cruise when the 49ers called him around Thanksgiving and ended up coming in and playing slot cornerback in this game. They had Trevarius Ward on the outside, and I can never say his first name, Diamadora Lenore, the other cornerback for the 49ers. I mean, they both played really stellar games as well. Patrick Mahomes could not find open receivers. So many different plays where he drops back, and then he has to scramble and get outside the pocket and keep looking for something downfield. And occasionally he finds something, but it's not until it's 6, 7, 8 seconds into the play, and you can't expect your corners to keep covering that entire time. And they were able to take away Travis Kelce so well. Like, so often it was the cornerbacks that made the big plays. And in the eternal, analytics debate between what's more valuable, pass rushers or coverage, this was another notch towards coverage being just slightly more important than the pass rush that got after both of these quarterbacks, because the QB has power to neutralize the pass rush a lot more than he has power to neutralize the corners. Yes, the pass rush absolutely matters. It's not an argument of pass rush doesn't matter and coverage is the only thing that matters. But in a game like this, you saw Nick Bosa and Chase Young and Javon Hargrave and all the different 49ers pass rushers trying to get after Mahomes. They got him a couple of times. But there's so many plays where he can either get rid of the ball quickly before they get to him, or he can extend the play and escape and neutralize the pass rush as a result and extend those plays. And then all of a sudden, coverage is trying to hold up and he can find somebody open downfield. But it's Mahomes individually, regardless of what his offensive line does, that sometimes he's able to escape those plays. I mean, the same thing with Justin Fields, right? He showed this just as well, that, yeah, the pass rush can beat your offensive lineman. But if your quarterback makes the right decision with the ball from that point, the pass rush is diminished at that point. I mean, sure, it eventually is going to make the quarterback throw, but if he can just extend that play, then it's on your coverage. And the better your coverage can hold up on the back end, there's nothing the quarterback can do about that. All he can do is extend the play and make them have to hold up longer. But at the same time, if they can just keep holding up, they're good to go. And so that coverage was so important. And being able to have a quarterback that can neutralize the pass rush, either with his legs or with his quick release, like Brock Purdy. I mean, there were a couple of blitzes. The Chiefs blitzed Brock Purdy more than Steve Spagnuolo had blitzed almost any quarterback in his time as Chiefs defensive coordinator. It was 56% of his dropbacks he was blitzed. But Brock Purdy, quick decisions, reads the defense, throws into the blitz, knows where the space is going to be, and can, again, quarterbacks have that ability to neutralize pass rush. But you needed Isaiah McDuffie, and you needed a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie. Damn it, I keep doing that. Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed on the outside, to take away some of those quick throws. And that's where you really started to see this Chiefs defense thrive from the cornerback spot. Again, it's not to say that that safety is not important, or that linebacker is not important, or that the pass rush is not important, but it's not like the Chiefs had a bunch of household names getting after the quarterback here. I mean, it's Chris Jones, and George Karlaftis was a first-round pick, but they're certainly injured on the pass rush department with Omenihu hurt and on injured reserve, but it was less important than having the big-time cornerbacks there that can hold up so you can blitz, and so that even if the quarterback is trying to neutralize your pass rush, you can get there. So the Bears need Jalen Johnson on this defense. You can't just let him go because cornerback is so valuable. And you need to keep developing Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon and Terrell Smith. And you know what? I wouldn't hate drafting another cornerback this year. Not early, but why not keep adding more depth? Because guys get hurt. And to be able to have guys come off the bench like the 49ers got with Logan Ryan, et cetera, like keep building up the depth at that position because you need good cornerbacks. You can never have too many good cornerbacks. Just like you can never have too many good pass rushers, you can never have too many good cornerbacks. And the corners are just a little bit, I think, just a little bit more valuable than a great pass rush if those guys can hold up. I mean, we even saw that this season with the Bears defense. Like Montez Sweat was good. They didn't have a lot of other pass rush, but when Johnson and Smith and Gordon were locking guys down, like that helps the pass rush get home. So that's really, like the Bears need to get a pass rusher this offseason. Like that's a big thing. They definitely need another pass rusher to complement Montez Sweat, another interior pass rusher. It matters for sure. But being able to lock down those cornerback spots and grow Tyreek Stevenson to have a really strong duo there goes a really long way towards making life difficult on the opposing quarterback in ways that he can't control, unlike the pass rush where if he just gets rid of the ball or extends the play, the pass rush can only do so much. So that's what I think we can take away from the defenses we saw in this game, in addition to the play callers and the quarterbacks obviously being the most important part for both of these two Super Bowl teams. We'd love to hear what you think about the Super Bowl teams and what the Bears can learn from them. If there's other takeaways here, certainly both teams have good linebacker play as well. I mean, they're both really good teams. Obviously, the lesson here is, hey, build a good team and you can get to the Super Bowl. Like that's kind of the obvious thing, but wanted to go a little bit more in depth on both of these teams. Would love to hear what you think the Bears should try and emulate from the 49ers and the Chiefs. Let us know in the comments here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, or you can tweet us at Locked On Bears or post in the Locked On Bears Facebook group. However you do it, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Come on back tomorrow because barring some big Bears breaking news, we're going to do a different kind of Locked On Bears podcast tomorrow. More of a narrative style where we're really going to get to know Shane Waldron with his words. I spent hours going through a bunch of Shane Waldron press conferences from his time in Seattle and Los Angeles, going through Sean McVay audio, Pete Carroll audio, got some Dave Canales audio, some Russell Wilson audio. We're going to hear a lot of different voices explain who Shane Waldron is and what the Shane Waldron offense looks like so that we know what to expect when he comes to Chicago. It's really, it's going to be an in-depth podcast. I've already got most of the work done on it. That's going to come out tomorrow, so come on back for that. Make us your first listen so you can really get to know Shane Waldron, because we still haven't gotten to an introductory press conference for Shane Waldron yet. I don't know what they're waiting for. Kind of feel like it'll be this week at some point, but we don't need to hear from Shane Waldron in the Bears podium because we've heard from Shane Waldron plenty in Seattle. So we'll get to know this offensive coordinator a lot better on the podcast tomorrow. Come on back for that. And of course, you have to come on back for your next opportunity to bear down.